Good morning. My name is Bonnie Tunya, and I'm excited to be part of running this program today. We are set for really exciting conversations. We are set to welcome a brilliant brand into this market, talk about solutions. I have an exciting panel for you coming up, and then we also get to hear from you, all that wrapped up in just about an hour and a half. We are here because there are problems, right? There are problems to how we do business, how we live life, and technology is making lots of efforts trying to fight that or try to give you solutions. And that's why we're here, to try and talk a little bit about that and try to figure out how do we solve our problems, especially in business? How do we make our lives easier? And especially now that we're living in very dynamic times, how do we navigate these times? And do we even know what's the best solution, And we'll be trying to wrap our minds around these things. Obviously, under this, Echo is convening this conversation, but then it's more than just about Echo. It's about our way of life. It's about changing how we think. It's about revisiting how we face problems around business and just reaffirming the proposition that is ICTs as far as this is concerned. So that's really what we'll be doing here. But more importantly, like I said earlier on, we'll be introducing you to a fantastic brand. A brand that challenges your thinking, a brand that is anchored on creativity and transformation, a brand that just tells you, we're here to do things a little bit different, but not just different, but also to have fun, because that's all it is about. I mean, life is tough. You're probably jumping from one meeting to the other in your room or in your bedroom, and you're working from home, and there's just a lot of stress. So the whole point is, can we have some fun while we solve all these problems, right? So that's just a nutshell of what we'll be doing. Now, to help us navigate that and set the scene and really tell us really, why we are here, it's good manners to invite the host to just paint that picture for us. And ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, allow me to bring on stage Ken Munyi, the Managing Director for Echo International Kenya. Ken, because of technology, we can't really clap, but I would have given you a proper applause.
Thank you.
You get it.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure, really, to see every one of you this morning. Allow me to begin by really acknowledging some of our friends that have joined us this morning. Caroline Armstrong, the Non-Executive Director, National Housing Corporation, Karibu Sana. Glad to have you, Juliana Rotich, Atlantica Ventures Partner. Karibu Sana, good to have you. Ron Lauren Bosch, COO, Echo Kenya. It's a joy to have you this morning. I'm also joined by my colleagues from across the borders, Godfrey Sarah Mukoko, who is my colleague from Uganda, and Ulrich Lassen from Zambia. And I'm also joined by a vast team of Echo clients, our partners, our media colleagues from the Fourth Estate, and our colleagues. Good morning. It's a great honor really to host you here today. And we as at Echo are marking an important milestone in the Kenya business transformation scene. We are glad that you made time to be part of this journey and to commence this journey with us this morning. Allow me to just touch a little bit on where we are in this market and in the broader business landscape. It's been said that change is the only constant. Indeed, many of us agree that the business landscape has been changing even before the COVID pandemic. But it feels like COVID has been here for a long, long time. And it's sometimes difficult to imagine pre-COVID time, but actually there was a pre-COVID time. There wasn't always COVID. But long before that, business has been changing, and rapidly so, driven by, among other things, the dynamic demographic context. Some of you would know that we now have the millennials in our workplace. We also see the socio-economic factors driving change. We know we now address a much more informed a much more economically empowered clientele. And we also operate in a context that is rich with options, technology options, and a variety thereof. And therefore, all these changes create a disruption in the business scene, and workspaces have had to change and adapt more readily to a future of a different context of working. With the pandemic, however, this transformation has only accelerated, setting on the much talked about new normal. You know that term, new normal? That is what we live in right now, and that has accelerated the transformation that we are all having to change in and adapt in today. Some entrepreneurs have had to reinvent themselves, while others have had to completely rethink their value propositions, and even some, their business models in the context, in light of where we are. Putting this into perspective, dear friends, is that according to the World Economic Forum, in our lifetime, 75 million current job roles will be displaced by the shift in the division of labor between humans, machines, and algorithms, while 133 million new job roles will emerge at the same time in our lifetime. Indeed, leaders are having to be more agile in their approach to organizing and coordinating how work gets done, how their staff interact and collaborate, and how we then engage with our customers. As Eco Kenya, we have chosen to be intentional in the way we approach the market. We refuse to just hawk technology. We refuse to just push boxes. We refuse to just sell links. And instead choosing to immerse ourselves in our customers' context so as to be able to understand their business environments, their aspirations, their plans, their fears, their challenges, and then be able to orchestrate solutions that respond to that need. We are committed to a journey of continual learning and adapting to the needs in the marketplace, to be relevant, to be effective, and to be efficient. We have to keep learning. I'm excited that the panel that will come on shortly today will start an honest conversation about the fast-changing business environment and the future of work, of the world of work. I mean start a conversation. Why? Because I believe this is a conversation that needs to carry on beyond today. And that conversation needs to carry on until you find technology deployed in your context in a manner that is relevant, in a manner that addresses your challenges, and in a manner that empowers you to differentiate in the market. Talking a little bit about Eco Kenya. The Eco Kenya launch could not have come at a better time. We are confident in tackling the issues that we find in the market today, and we believe that the Kenya market is yearning for these new solutions. And as a friend of mine says, who are we to deny the market that opportunity? Kenya is one of the most progressive adapters of technology, not just in sub-Saharan Africa, but ranks really high across the globe. According to the World Bank, the Kenya ICT sector has been growing at an average of 10.8% annually since 2016, becoming a significant source of economic development and job creation with a spillover effect affecting each and every sector. Is there any place that technology hasn't touched in our context? Actually, none. You talk of agribusiness, technology has affected that space. You talk of education, technology has affected that space. You talk of health, technology has affected that space. And we are so privileged that it's happening right in our watch in this country. Eco Kenya is leveraging this progressive growth evidenced through Kenya's entrepreneurial spirit and the culture to enhance Kenya's transition into the fourth industrial revolution. Allow me to dive a little bit more and tell you something that you need to know about Echo Kenya. Echo Kenya is part of the Echo International, which is a cloud-based Pan-African ICT service provider that delivers value in creative and transformative ways, with a focus to building mutually beneficial relationships with our customers, especially within the corporate and the multinational enterprise space. We are building an ecosystem that boasts a network of operations and strategic partners spread across 44 of our African countries and cutting across different areas of specialization and technology focus. As a result, our clients, therefore, are assured of a of the widest coverage from a technology opportunities, from a network angle, options around about the connectivity within our continent, but also options that touch on their managed multi-branch business connectivity needs. But stretching that to software-defined wide area networks, IT as a service solutions that are agile and affordable, but also security offerings that protect the data and our customers' technological environment. Using this ecosystem, Echo Kenya will help our customers seize the new opportunities through the selection and implementation of the optimal technology so as to optimize their context and be able to actually realize the much promise that is with us today. As a Pan-African group, we are excited to launch first in Kenya. And as I said earlier, Kenya continues to trailblaze in the adoption and application of technology solutions through a robust IT infrastructure and our progressive entrepreneurial culture and spirit. I need not tell you about the mobile money. I did not tell you about our Huduma centers. I did not tell you that just yesterday our president opened the first semiconductor plant in this part of the world. And so Kenya continues to trailblaze in different spheres within the technology in this part of the world. Echo Kenya heralds a fresh approach to developing ICT solutions for our business customers through a consultative process that recognizes each client's unique context. And we will then be able to leverage our own capabilities and the capabilities within our ecosystem to respond to the needs of our customers. Today also marks another key milestone as we bring to the Kenya market the first of our suite of offerings. We launch the Super One. I say again, Super One. I didn't say Superman, I said Super One, a managed service, a software-defined wide area network. And I just need to say, without getting into a lot of techno lingo, is that the SD1 is really the natural successor of the much talked about MPLS that has been with us for over the last 10 years and whose functionalities we find increasingly getting challenged in a cloud-first context and a distributed networking environment. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of work is here. Our role is to ensure that our clients are prepared to harness the opportunities that come with this reality, and that Kenya is maintaining its stature as a Silicon Savannah. Dear friends and partners, welcome to Echo Kenya. Welcome the Super One possibilities. Welcome to a new consultative approach of engagement. Karibu sana, asante sana, thank you very much.
That's the point you clap. Thank you. Thanks, Ken, for breaking that down in a language we can understand. But I guess for a lot of people here wondering, so that's super one, and it seems like every day there's a new solution that's promising to fix our problems. The next few moments we'll spend to just try and unpack that and try to figure out exactly how does this then solve our everyday problems, okay? So allow me to introduce to you, to bring up on stage my panelists to help me discuss this. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring on stage a person who really doesn't need any introduction when it comes to tech. Miss Juliana Rotich, who's a venture partner at Atlantica Ventures. So here's the thing with tech is that, so now we're broadcasting and all that, so you can't hear claps, but Juliana, I promise you people are clapping, okay? On stage. All right? Please come on stage. Please join me. Next, I'd like to introduce Ms. Caroline Armstrong, who is the non-executive director at the National Housing Corporation. And last but not least, Lauren Bosch, who's the Echo International COO. All right, great. So, gentlemen and ladies, we've talked a lot about what Echo brings on the table, and there's a lot already that has been put out there in terms of trying to solve our problems. And you're all aware about the tremendous advancements that have happened in emerging technology. And I'd like to start with you, Caroline. All this can be overwhelming to somebody trying to run a business, right? You have the problems, yes, but all this can be overwhelming, and we're trying to figure out, how do I even adapt? How do I change into this? If you could just walk us through from where you see it, that whole change management process of how do you embrace all these toys that have been put out here?
Okay, the first thing that I'd like to explain is what change management actually is, because a lot of people don't get it or assume they're already doing it. Whenever you're trying to implement anything, I would simply say that you're doing two things. You're implementing some kind of project, okay? And that would look after what I would call the more technical, the more logical elements. So what are we doing, by when, by whom, what's its expected benefit, and so on. But then you've got the second piece of how do you actually get this done? So that's the people piece. There's very few businesses, and now we're seeing more and more of them pop up online, that are single-person enterprises. Okay? So that means irrespective of what industry you're in, you've got a reliance on people. The other thing you have to bear in mind is irrespective of what industry you're in, your customers are people. Okay? So you've got both elements. Now what change management actually is doing is getting the people elements of any kind of implementation managed. And it is not communication. So it is not about saying, because we shared information and because we gave an instruction, we assume everybody's getting on board and everybody's gotten with the program. Okay? It's a matter of measuring where you are and what you want to do. But the first thing you need to know is, why do you want to achieve what you want to achieve? Okay? So I keep saying I'm at a space in my life where profit for profit's sake is very been there, done that. That is not what's going to create your long-term sustainable success, and that definitely is not going to create attractiveness for talent. People are very purpose-driven now. We're seeing generations come into the workforce that are very me first. And we're raising children that are very me first. It's got to be all about you, but in the broader context of a community. But that means that we're now looking at how do I feel? What do I want to achieve? Because remember, every day becomes part of your history. So even the time I'm spending now is going to become part of my history. So I need to choose what is it that I'm going to spend my time on. And in today's context where the work-life balance is no longer a thing, my work is now inside my life actually is my work. I mean, yeah, my desk is where I'm doing my social media, and then I'm also fulfilling my job requirements. There's no separation. So now more than ever is businesses have to appeal to individuals. We don't have the opportunity for being able to say, let's do a town hall, a staff forum, whatever it is, and rely on the grapevine. So organizations rely on the grapevine, whether they like it or not, because they rely on you being able to go and preach the gospel of whatever the change is that we want to implement. Right. But a lot of that is not sitting at your desk or reading an email. It's when you're on the water machine, it's when you're going for lunch, it's when you're just having a random chat. Yeah? We can't rely on that anymore, because we're now working from wherever we choose to work from. Yeah? And that's part of these kinds of solutions, is let me work from where I feel good working. Manage me differently, but also appeal to me. So now when you're managing change management, you're creating an awareness of what is it that we want to achieve and the why. Why do we want to achieve it? And what is your personal contribution? So simply showing us a P&L and a balance sheet and things like that is not enough for people anymore. It's I want to know the time I spend contributes how? The so what of my work. What is the so what? But then simply because I know it doesn't mean I want to do. Okay, so I understand, I get what you're trying to do, but you must create within me a desire to do it. Right. Then give me the tools to do it, okay, and the ability to do it, then I will do it. Only if you created the desire. Okay, so understanding and knowledge don't equal desire. So now you're creating desire and then creating change in a place where you no longer have the benefit of people together.
This is not just a problem for big organizations, right? It also is a challenge for a staff team of 5-4 people and you're trying to introduce new things. What's the difference in approaching change for different kind of organizations, a bigger one and a more nimble one?
On a broad level, the process you should use should be the same.
Right.
Okay? It is then, okay, let me take a step back. People will follow, okay, the people that they trust. Yeah? And today more than ever, we did IQ, we did EQ, okay, so we've gone from intelligence to emotional intelligence. And now what we need to be measuring is the trust quotient in a business. So people started talking about trust a while ago, and it was always, you must trust your leadership. Yeah? And leaders must be authentic so that they create trust. The reality is, people connect with the people closest to them. So they will respond to their immediate line manager, okay? So yes, you've got your overall CEO in as you're saying, a huge multinational. I will listen, but I will take my cue from the person above me. So in a team of 5, all 5 of us may be working for one, or 4 of us working for one, which means we have a direct interaction. So the trust and the believability and then the desire and implementation comes from me directly to that person, the 5 of us. But now let's call those 5 divisions. They like having a CEO of the business, but equally they can't necessarily relate. So they're going to relate to the person that is closest to them. So what you have to do is you have to be managing the desire. I know it sounds strange, because no, just because you pay people doesn't mean they want. Okay? So you're managing desire across your institution. And what you'll find is people will see lip service. They will see it and they will feel it. And if I don't trust you, then you can tell me whatever you want and I will still do what I want. I mean, I used the example earlier of talking about the difference between acceptance and creating desire. So understanding doesn't create desire. And I was using the example of relationships. Yeah? We have relationships and then there's this point in the relationship that is awkward. Who's going to say I love you first? Okay? So we understand we're in this dynamic, we're in a relationship, we're both getting benefits from this relationship, yeah? Which could be in the workplace, but who's going to say I love you first? And what does I love look like? And God help you if you said I love you first and the other person said, okay, or thank you. You see?
Right.
So you see, starting to do that with teams is I need that kind of relationship, and that's what people are looking for, is that kind of connection, that kind of relationship where I feel we're in it together.
Right. Caroline, this is more complex than I thought, but let me just bring in Juliana. So we've talked about that whole process, but Juliana, talk us through the psychology of even figuring out what you need as a business, because the problems are clear. You know, there's connectivity, there's cost, there's whatnot, security, etc. But then, how do I know if I'm getting the right thing? Yeah.
That's a really great question. I think it depends on what stage of the business you're in, because if I've had the opportunity to build companies where the team can be seated around a dining room table and you can have a discussion, or you can go to dinner in one sitting and figure it out, and to running part of a multinational where you've got a lot more people in more locations. Right. So it depends on what stage of the business. So that's number one. So in the early stages, you're mostly wanting something that is agile, that it can quickly change as you grow. So figuring out, first of all, what you want to achieve as a business, and then working it back in terms of then what sort of infrastructure could grow with you, so that you're not having to pause doing what you're doing as a business to figure out the infrastructure. So it's really about figuring out solutions that can scale as you go along. Because as you're putting together the architecture of your business, one of the key things that you could do early on is to build in a modular way, so that you can then just grow incrementally. So and also as your costs, managing your costs, because when you're smaller, you probably have a much smaller pool of resources, but as you grow, that could probably grow. And as you get more customers, there might be more costs, but you also want to grow in a smart way where you're being as efficient as you possibly could be, and keeping costs at a manageable level. So it's important to really understand what the business needs, and then what the business needs to grow.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let me just bring in Lauren. You're paying the rent for the rent, so I mean, might as well give you a chance to speak. But Lauren, I mean, you've launched a rather ambitious product today, and we're just talking about that, and words like affordability and agile and all these things come. But also you've made a very strong proposition in your products that you're not just launching a product for a product's sake. It needs to affect how people feel and how they go about their work. Give us a sense of how then we translate that to our everyday needs. So Super One, for example, how does a business out here in Nairobi use that, and how do we translate such lofty solutions to everyday business problems?
I suppose the interesting thing for us is I was keen to have a conversation today about the business challenges of today's world, because we are facing those challenges ourselves. We have even, I suppose, an additional set of levers in terms of change in our business. We've made an acquisition, we're rebranding, we're trying to build a new culture, we're trying to create new brand identity and new solutions and services and attract good talent. Those are all challenges that we are facing as a business today. And I think those are very real for many other businesses. So I also believe that we're kind of learning together. Our ambitions, I don't think, are unique in terms of our industry sector, but across all the sectors that are there. We want to be an employer of choice. We want to be the place that really great people want to come and work. We want to be efficient and effective, as Juliana was saying, and use technology wisely, and create better agility and better productivity and better flexibility around the working environments that we have. We want to be able to respond to the environments as they are today. And I think, as Ken said in his introduction, a lot of the stuff that we're having to respond to quickly today has been coming for a long time. I think good people in particular have expectations about the place that they work. And Caroline said some things around, how that translates into a change management process. But you have to be aware of those things. If you don't understand that those changes are upon you, I think you're going to lose out.
Right.
In the marketplace, we're all competing for good people. We're not just competing for customers or market share. We're really competing for good people, because in the end, it's the people in your organization that make things work. So the way you then understand those things and go through the processes that Juliana was talking about now, in terms of understanding what your business really needs, for us, that's really, really important. That's the conversation we want to have. What is it that your business needs? And leverage our skills and our ability to tap into a partner ecosystem that we've got of specialists in particular areas or in our own expertise to help you to make the technology choices that meet those business outcomes. That's the thing we want to do. So I know this is a very long answer to your question, but then in the context of how does SD-WAN help with that, I think Ken was talking earlier that many businesses in that sort of medium-sized to large business organization have multiple locations. They will have come to the realization at some point that they need a VPN of some kind. They need a private network to connect up their users and share resources internally and secure all of that stuff. Traditionally, I'd say for the last decade or so, in fact, I can count it, it's about 11 years exactly since we introduced MPLS in a former life here as a managed service in the market. The MPLS technology was the right way to do it. But the world has evolved. MPLS is not as flexible as it used to be, and really what SD-WAN does is it allows us to leverage a whole lot of things. It allows you to fully leverage all the bandwidth that you've acquired. So without getting too technical, in MPLS, typically the architecture that's deployed is active-passive. It's fairly static. It's not very sexy, let's be honest. In the SDN environment, you can fully utilize all the bandwidth that's available to you. But also the thing that we're really excited about is that you can fully leverage the opportunity to build out hybrid networks. So a blend of expensive and cheap connectivity. And in our conversation with you, we'll work out together how important is each one of your locations and what's the appropriate architecture there. And we've set up all of our services and all of our solutions in a way to respond to that and to be flexible to those outcomes rather than having a cookie cutter type approach and put it on there. But really, we're not overly keen to have a technology conversation with you. We're saying, trust us to make the technology decisions. The more I invest in understanding your business and you as a customer, the more appropriate it is that we can bring an ecosystem together that works for you.
And Lauren, you've talked about a great deal about that consultative sort of space, and Caroline talked about that whole culture and how to manage that. And what comes to mind right now is it's not just about performance. It's not just about the SLA count. There's more than that. And perhaps let me just turn this to you guys in a very pedestrian question. What then do business want if you're to answer that solution? Because that's a question really that we're trying to solve here. If you're, Juliana, from your experience running both small and large organizations and operating in this market, if you're to answer the question what businesses want, what would that be?
Businesses really, they want to maximize the talent that they have and the time that they have in order to be able to provide the services or goods in the most efficient manner. I think we can all agree that that's at least at the base of it. In addition to the other, the context of whichever company that they're part of. But really, most businesses do not want to waste resources because the people in your business, the infrastructure in your business, all of these things are you don't want to waste any of that time. And in the quest for efficiency, and it's not just efficiency for efficiency's sake, it's efficiency in order to either get to market quicker or to be able to provide good service to your customers. It's also to then realize the purpose of your company, whatever that might be. If you're not able to do that in an efficient way, usually then there's a bit of friction and there are problems there. And I think most businesses, actually not only small startups or big companies, it's an exploration of possibility. Right? If we put together this and we put together that and we do it this way and with this strategy and we switch up and adapt in this way, we could do Y. So this exploration of possibility is really something that businesses do and also individuals do within those businesses. And I think one of the things that we were talking earlier about years ago when we were very idealistic about the internet and what technology could do for society. And looking back, we were very idealistic, but I think we could find a way to still be idealistic now when it comes to that question of what is possible?
Right.
What is possible when I don't have to think about the technology stack?
Right. Yeah.
So then I can just focus on my strategy, and I can focus on my people, and I can focus on what it is I want to bring to forth.
Right.
So so just this exploration of possibility without the cognitive load of what sort of security services do I need?
Yeah.
What sort of infrastructure do I need? How can I grow in an agile way? And I think that's what is interesting with the technology stack that has been previously presented.
Which is what Lauren is trying to propose, that you let them worry about the solution and you focus on what you're good at. But let me just bring in Caroline back. Juliana has mentioned that whole process of really answering that question, and it comes from an organization or people in that organization. Are there tools or basic rules of thumb or a cheat sheet that organizations can use to get to that decision faster?
The decision about which technology?
Exactly.
Okay.
Just talk to me.
That's two. So that's A1. Let's go to B.
I think, first let me step back because I'm not a technology person. Okay, so in my mind it is very clear, technology is just an enabler. Okay, so a non-technology business doesn't go out there and go, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to spend hours of detail being told what I can buy. Okay, it is simply, I want to achieve X, and this is how I would like it to look and feel, and now you add, like Legos.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have the base, and I know I want to build some kind of palace, all right? So help me, because there's also a bunch of stuff that I don't know. So what is it that a company wants to achieve? It wants to achieve its goals. And then it has to have technology along the way to achieve its goals, okay? So what you actually want is you want technology that enables the goals. You want technology that is a partner along your strategy. Okay, and your strategy is just your roadmap to achieve your goal.
Right.
And if your goal in the world of today is we want to make this much money, your annual report should actually be very short. You're then just bulking it with all of the stuff that you're obliged to put in it.
Right.
But if the be all and end all of your business today is I want to make this much money, you're probably going to have to rethink, or you will shrink to a point where rethink is necessary.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So you've got a goal and you've got a purpose that is bigger, because that is what people will identify with. Along your journey, your staff will identify with a purpose and choose to be part of that journey.
Right.
Your suppliers should be choosing to do the same thing. Okay? Your customers should be choosing to do the same thing, because we all have lots and lots of choices today. Okay? So what are the things that you should be looking at? You should be looking at technology as an enabler, and you should be demanding that the people you partner with don't give you a menu and say product 1, product 2, and product 3, pick. Because the reality is you're asking me to pick things I don't know about.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
It's like asking me to go and choose a men's barber. I mean, why would I go and say this is the best barber in town? What do I know about going to see a barber?
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I will guess from other people, and that's what happens with technology. Is I talk to other people, and then I listen to the pitch that the barber will make,
Right.
and then I'll go, okay, based on my level of ignorance, okay, this is what I have chosen.
Right.
So what we're looking for is partners along the way, whether those are staff, suppliers,
Correct.
customers, and so on and so forth.
Right.
From the staff perspective, what is your cheat sheet was your question. Okay, and I would say that you're going through a process. So first, you better be very clear on what your purpose is, because your staff are buying in, okay? Or checking out. Now remember, you have people resigning at their desks, or in Carrefour, in the virtual world, or in the coffee shop, wherever they may be. Right. They're resigning while they work for you, okay? So they checked out.
Yeah.
So once you're looking at that, you need to know that you've got to have a purpose, and you've got to have a culture. Now your culture should not be about you, it should be about the people that you want to appeal to.
Right.
Remember, my generation was told you leave your life at the door when you come to work. Okay, so we were told very clearly, irrespective of what's happening at home, you leave it at the door and you come in. Today, try and tell a 25-year-old that.
They'll quit.
They'd be like, Psh, and
yeah.
they'd move on to the next employer.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the things that we were told are different. So don't build it around you. Build it around the people you want to appeal to, your customer base, your staff base.
Right.
So that's your first thing, because they buy in.
Correct.
Once they've bought into the bigger purpose, they then need to buy into whatever it is you're doing, whether it's tactical or whether it's a new project, whether it's an IT implementation, because IT implementations are actually traditionally very painful because you want me to adapt to something.
Right.
So the easiest thing you're doing first is create an awareness. What are we doing and why? And what's in it for you? Okay.
Right, yeah.
Then your second is create a desire, which is paint a picture so that I want to adapt to this thing. Okay. So how fabulous is my life going to be on the other end of this? And because my life as an employee is fabulous, we achieve the organizational goal.
Right.
Then give me, okay, the knowledge. So what is this adaptation actually going to look like? So when you want me to adopt your new technology, what does it actually look like? So what is your expectation of me? What do I have to come in? Like in these offices, power comes from the ceiling so that you can literally have a clean desk. So what do you need from me? What you need from me, first of all, is please don't go and look for a socket on the wall and go and buy an extension cable.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So those things. What is the
Correct.
knowledge that you want? Give me the ability of the how, and then measure me against it, and then we come back through the loop. But what you also must do is don't assume they move as a pack. Different people will be at different stages, and you must walk them at different stages.
Right.
And make sure that the people that you rely on to implement are aware that they are responsible for enabling people to change, not for measuring results.
Right.
Okay.
Interesting. One of the things you mentioned, you talked about partnerships in there, and I know, listening to Ken earlier on, he talked about partnership ecosystems and all that. And I'd like to just pose a question to Lauren. When you look at, perhaps the first question would be, how important are partnerships to what you're trying to do, and how do you see that relationship changing in the different markets that you're now set up?
Sure, I mean, absolutely fundamental. I don't think that any organization, despite some claiming that they will get there, can scale to being a specialist in every single thing. I believe in building ecosystems and identifying partners
Right.
who are like-minded, where between yourself and your partner you can build a synergistic outcome for a customer, but they have a specialist set of expertise and a particular problem that they can solve that you don't necessarily have the skills in-house to do. But when you put those things together and you have a conversation together with a customer, you can say to a customer, you will get a better outcome if you engage with us together than trying to engage with us separately. Because we've worked out in the background how we work together in terms of understanding your outcome, but also then leveraging those skills. The knowledge base in almost anything has like a star topology, if you can visualize that. And so the total knowledge is represented by a sphere which is constantly growing. And as you see that, you'll see wedges taking shape, because as expertise in a particular and specialization takes shape, the amount of knowledge in a particular space just becomes so much that no single entity or single individual can fully and comprehensively cover all those knowledge bases.
Right.
So I think it's really important to identify the right partners who are culturally a match, who are experts in their own space, and to be able to leverage that and have a common outcome. It's also where the fun happens, I have to say. We
Right.
talk about change often as it's this looming dark thing. If I listen to us talk sometimes about it, you can almost see the shadow approaching. It's like we can't control it and this dark cloud is coming.
Right.
But there's so much to be excited about. There's so many unseen and unexpected opportunities that come about when you embrace these changes and when you take these things on. There was a guy called Charles Handy in the 90s, I was saying to the media team earlier the week, who wrote a book called The Age of Unreason. And one of the things he spoke about is how the world of work would change and how companies would change the way in which they engage, and in the end have a small nucleus of very expensive, very specialized people who focus on that core competence in your business, and how almost everything else in one way or another is outsourced, either on a project basis or a skills basis or a times basis, to somebody who's not a permanent employee, either an individual or a group of people or a company that does a particular task.
Right.
And so if you then think about that dynamic, the way in which you set up your business even changes. The opportunities that we've unlocked in terms of the change we've made in our office, and I think the cultural shift that's already happened by virtue of changing the environment has brought a number of very exciting opportunities, I have to say, and unexpected benefits. So So there's a lot of positive stuff to discover
Right,
there.
yeah.
If you can get over that fear of and the anxiety of what this unknown is,
Right.
and let it show itself to you, I mean, it's an interesting journey.
Gillian, you want to jump in?
That's really encouraging because I think, as someone who's built companies before, I think one of the things that you want is that sort of partnership so that you don't have to get lost in the weeds. You can focus on the possibilities. And I think what's really also interesting is that the cost of adaptation is also, because for a while there we were talking, in the past we've always talked about how technology has reduced the cost of innovation. Now the cost of adaptation with the way you've painted that picture is also coming down. Would you say that would be a correct? Yeah. So yeah.
Sure.
But I suppose the opportunity that we're hoping to create is that there is a truth that large enterprise and multinational businesses have silos and in their business of big groups of expert people who, like a CIO or CTO, I suppose, and can afford that whole pillar and that whole set of infrastructure and resource base. A mid-sized business struggles to justify that investment. And if we can find a way to make available to a mid-sized organization who has those very real, who needs the strategic insight that a CIO could bring, or the execution that a CTO could bring in terms of making a strategy real on the ground by making technology choices and implementing those things, who needs those things but cannot justify the cost of that very expensive resource,
Right.
to be able to offer them access to that through an ecosystem type of engagement like the one we're putting together, I think is the real opportunity.
Right.
And that benefit then sort of scales in its own right. It helps with everything. We did have in the pre-media engagement someone who was very concerned about the consumer impact of internet and where all that's going. Our position obviously is we can't directly influence that, but I do believe we can indirectly influence those outcomes by creating almost the anchor players in the mid-sized business that over time a consumer user would be able to leverage in terms of all of those.
Yeah.
So,
And speaking about the language of mid-sized businesses, small businesses, I mean, everybody seems to agree that, price is not the only game in town. That has moved on. But just looking at trends, how do you see this changing? What is the place of price in the solutions that you roll out? And how then is that communicated in a way that I would get it, that, it's not just about the price point, it's actually the value that is being proposed.
Okay, so Julian, I'm going to join you downstairs just now with a placard, and I'm going to say that in our idealistic world, what we really believe strongly is that we're looking at the internet wrong. We're not looking at, as companies in particular, not approaching the internet in the right way. We believe that the internet is a utility, like water or electricity, and that you should, even as a business, be consuming the internet in that way.
Right.
And so we're working very hard with, in particular, our infrastructure partners to put those, make those commercial constructs available to our customers. To say, we're often stuck in a space where you're in a throughput-based construct. I'm buying 20 megabits of direct internet access, and that's kind of based on a hope or a guess of what you need or the limit of what you can afford, like either of those. And seldom do you have the opportunity as a business to allow your network to show itself to you by opening it up. So, and the analogy that I often use is I say, if you're a manufacturer of some kind and you have a factory and you have three-phase electricity coming in there, and you look at your power bill at the end of the month and you go, oh, the electricity is too high, I'm going to call KPLC and ask them to downgrade me to single-phase power. That's not how you solve that problem. You go into your factory environment, you understand where is the high usage coming from,
Right.
And then you address that problem. You solve the correct problem rather than treating a symptom, which is the symptom is I've bought 20 megs and it's full all the time. But because your network can't fully show itself to you, it's very difficult sometimes to pinpoint where that problem is. So we believe that that what you actually need in that connectivity and managed services layer is a network that will flex as your business flexes, even in the context of a month cycle, rather than to have you stuck in a throughput-based engagement. Either you're only buying what you can afford, and at the times when you're busy, you don't actually get what you need, and you frustrate your customers and you frustrate your staff, or you've bought enough bandwidth to cater for your busy period, and for 70% of the month, you're actually not even using that much bandwidth. So your resources, financial resources, are going to a place that you can't fully get the benefit of. So we really believe that language and that expectation needs to change.
Right.
there's no technology barrier to that. And the time is now, to make that real.
Yeah. Anyone of you want to jump in on that?
Just to add on to that is what happens is it then frees you up to do the things that drive your purpose. Just to tie it back to what Caroline was saying, when you then have the utilities sorted, then you can focus on all of these other things. And also one of the things that Caroline mentioned that I think is really powerful is that the internet, there's the human bit of everything, right? And the internet can help us to then connect and be human in how we then provide services or solve problems or create companies. But like really just to add, this has been really great because I think I'm starting to get a little bit more idealistic again, a little bit more hopeful about the internet and technology when we see it in the context of what it can free you up to do. So then you're freed up to think more creatively about your business or to strategize in a different way or to provide new and interesting products and services because you're not too worried about the things that could pull you back in terms of cost or how do then I adapt best, I think,
Yeah. And I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to, as we bring this to a landing, we've been talking about reinventing those solutions. And we're living in very, very dynamic times. So I'd like you to take a moment and just look at your crystal ball, right? And from an internet or ICT solutions point of view, what do you see as the biggest threats that we face now in relation to solutions to business? Anyone can go first. See, I had questions.
Say it again.
So what do you see as the biggest threats to all these efforts of trying to craft solutions for the present day challenges that we face in business, So what are some of the threats to efforts like what Lauren is doing with Echo? What are some of the threats that you see in this?
For me, it's humans and turning the tables. Because as a non-technology person, we were given a lot of prescriptions and then you're given options. And there's something a lot of people wear as a badge of honor. And it's actually very sad when you break it down to its essence, which is when people say, I've had to learn. And they've not had to learn things that are directly related and create productive outcomes for their goals. But they sit there and they say, I've had to learn about network implementation. Okay? And they wear it like a badge. Okay? And the reason I find that sad is because you didn't set out on your journey, whether you're in a corporate or you're building a corporate to another level or you're starting a business, you didn't sit there and go, you know what I really, really hope and dream for this business is that at the end of it, I will be a technology expert. Okay? So the reason I find that sad is because I've had to learn to do something because nobody was helping me along the way, or I was being given prescriptions that I didn't understand, so I had to learn. Or nobody was trying to understand me, so I had to find a way to fit inside somebody else's box. Okay, so they've got boxes, and I have to choose the box that closest fits what I want. So the reason I say it's humans is because our patience is running out, and our patience is being tested to the extreme during these times. So like when we were talking about a utility, it's like Lorraine was in my house, okay? Because I was just like, yeah, that was so us. You buy bandwidth, okay, and it's all good. And then you get homeschooling, okay, and we're all working from home. So you sit there going, okay, I keep dropping out of meetings, and I'm that person that says, to preserve my bandwidth, I'm going to have to turn my camera off, okay? And so you buy more. And then you see if you drop out of meetings, okay? And then you buy more, but you actually have no idea because you sit there going, but we seem to be buying an awful lot. How do I know if it's serving me? And then you go on Dr. Google and he tells you can download this app that will measure your traffic. So you download the app to measure your traffic. And in the meantime, they're very happy to sell you more. Okay? And we got to this point where I just said, this is not working. I want an analysis done of what we're demanding and then The outcome should be, I should just be able to get it. And then when the child goes back to school, do I now have to get a new contract to downsize? Yeah, do you see what I mean? So the reason I say that it will be people is because people will get tired and businesses will get tired. And then suddenly the tail will wag the dog. Right. So technology will be forced to change to actually, you know what I want? And you just make it happen. Just fix it. Yeah. Okay, and make it happen. And stop talking at me and stop making me buy things and buy conversations that make me feel stupid. Okay? Just make my objective happen so that I can actually focus on the things I need to do to get where I want to be.
Interesting. See, I totally had a smart panel. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to close down with a rather simple question. Because at the end of the day, you've said it's all about humans. It's humans who use this technology at the end of the day. I could start here, Juliana, going down as your closing comments. What has 2 years of a pandemic taught you?
That I don't have control over the things that I thought I had control over. And that adapting is one of the things that it's adapting and figuring out a way forward. Right. So there's been a lot of talk about building back better, but it's mostly about building forward because we had to stop at some point early last year. And what that does is it gives you a moment to reassess what, where your business is, or yourself as a human being, or on many different facets of life. So it's taught me, one, that the things that I thought I could control, none of us saw the pandemic coming, unless if you were Nathan Wolfe, who, he saw the pandemic coming. And actually said, he'd been doing that work over that time, with Ebola and everything. That there's some things you just don't have control over. But when you have this situation, how then do you build forward and you build better? And just looking forward. Right. Yeah.
Caroline?
Gosh, many things.
Give us 17.
Yeah, 17. Yeah. My top 17. I think the first is that it's actually not that bad, okay? The natural response was to panic and to complain, and people still complain, and venting is fine. I always say venting is fine, okay? But then you must get to a point where you stop venting, because if you cross that boundary, you're just whinging and whining, okay? So the reason I say it's not that bad is, yes, it could be worse for me, and it will be different degrees for everybody, okay? But equally, there have been some very good things that have come out of it. So if I look personally, I have learnt how valuable and how much I value relationships. Okay? Because when you go into a crisis, you start thinking about who is it that you miss the most. And I didn't miss my desk. Okay? You don't miss that stuff. You miss the interactions with people. And then you realize that, like for me, I had to stay away from my mother for a while because I couldn't expose her. So it was relationships. How important is relationships? And in the bigger scheme of things, that's where I am now. I had a conversation with a supplier the other day and I said, listen, what I'm not looking for is a supplier. I'm looking for relationships that supply. And for me, I was very clear that if they understand it, there's a possible future here. Right. If they don't understand what I'm saying, well, journey mercies, okay? But it was that idea of what relationships mean to me. Right. And so how do you leverage those? Because that connectedness that I missed, okay, and that many of the people that I know missed, is I think what will create this new normal. Like when people say, I can't wait to go back to how it was, I'm like, God help us if it did. I don't want that anymore. Okay, I don't want how it was. I think just keep moving forward. Like my sister always says, and I love it. She just says, keep it moving. Just keep it moving. Okay? So just find a new balance. Keep it moving. Do the new things. I value relationships. That's what I've learned. Change your perspective about things. Yes, homeschooling was a nightmare for a moment. Okay? I have never had such valuable time with my child like homeschooling. Generations will never have the opportunity to truly be immersed in what their child is learning, how their children are learning, okay? What we're actually paying for. Because of course now we're just like, wait, hold on a second. What am I actually paying a school for, yeah? So demanding that value. What do I want from the things that I actually buy? Because now, of course, you're now a lot more purposeful about what you spend and how you spend it and who you spend it with, okay? So like I was talking about being in my house with looking at our Wi-Fi, okay, and going, wait, what do I actually want? What do I actually need? Can somebody speak to us and our needs? Not, okay, house number whatever is on contract X and house number whatever is on contract Y. It's, can you speak more to me and my needs? Can you speak to me in a way that I understand and show me value for things? How will my life get better? So those are the things that for me, I've learned. I've learned about relationships. I've learned about the importance of connectedness. I've learned about perspective. Change your perspective. You know, the idea of if I show you something from the front and from the back, we're both right. Yeah? Is we're just seeing different perspectives. Right. Shift your perspective. And then be willing to adapt. Don't look at adaptation as scary. And don't look at the word pivoting as scary. And don't look at change as scary. Okay? Right. There is fabulosity. Is that even a word? There's fabulosity. Yeah, I'm like, there is fabulosity in... Right. Yeah, I'm like, there is fabulosity in the new. Okay? People are trying new things. Go for it. What is the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is you'll be where you are right now. How amazing would it be if you just got through the fear and had new, and forget new normal, because the normal is a state of a lack of change. Okay? Just be willing to just be fluid, and there is amazing things in that fluidity, and you will demand more and you will value more and you will get more as a person, whether you're an employee or a customer or a partner. Even in your whole life, life will give you a lot more than you had yesterday.
That would have been a nice way to end it, but we have Lauren.
How to follow up on that. So I suppose in my personal context, the thing that I've learned is, as I've always suspected, I'm completely socially retarded because the impact on me has been very little. Personally, it hasn't really impacted me as much as I would like to believe, not having all this personal interaction. But I have to say, in the bigger picture, something that makes me very proud to be African is that I believe that we have responded, maybe with the exception of one or two of our neighbors, which we won't mention, responded far better and far faster and far more clearly to the pandemic than what is referred to as the first world. And I've got to say, the question in my mind is, which is really the first world here? So I'm very proud about that. And really what's come up for me again is the pragmatic, the beautifully pragmatic nature of the African continent, where we just very quickly get to the point where we stop asking, is this fair or is it not fair? And we go, okay, I have to deal with what's in front of me. And we see a lot of that in the way that our customers respond, in the way that our staff respond, and certainly, obviously, the people that we know. Those responses, I think, have been very powerful. And we are, as your sister says, just getting on with it, really, aren't we? And I think that's a beautiful thing. And we have to sometimes just stop and acknowledge that. Right. I think we're in a very powerful position, and the potential is fantastic.
Right. Wow, ladies, gentlemen, thank you very much for such an engaging moment. I think it really has thrown us to where we ought to be, to rethink a lot of things, and not just on tech, but our approach generally to the things that we do. And what a fantastic conversation to launch Echo into the Kenyan market, right? So Juliana Rotich, Caroline Armstrong, Lauren Bosch, thank you very much for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to bring the proceedings to an end. However, I know there's tons of questions that you might have if you're watching us online. Just get on online. That will be echointernational.com. Yep. And there'll be somebody to take your questions. For the members of the press, we'll have a Q&A session right after this with Lauren and Ken for all the questions that you might have. Otherwise, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for making time this morning, and I wish you a fantastic rest of the day. Thank you. Thank you. That was great.